Well, I think it's the very wrong time to attempt to criminalise squatting, because this is a time when there's a shortage of housing, there's lots of people with no money, there's people with great big houses with no one in them that are empty for years. It seems stupid to criminalise squatting. In my experience, squatters are actually responsible people who actually, in a way, are doing people a favour. They're using places that are otherwise going to be empty. They're mostly fairly responsible. You know, they're not in there to steal or rob or anything. They need somewhere to stay. And also, you know, some of the world's greatest people have been squatters. I would run through a list. I'm too old. Well, I've done it a bit myself in my youth, and it was somewhere to stay when I couldn't afford anywhere for a little bit.
I moved to London, and I couldn't afford the rent here or anything, and I went to a vegan cafe and met some people that are squatting and had a chat about it and decided it was something that I'd like to do.
For me, the whole concept of squatting was new. I'd never heard of it. I grew up in Texas. If you squat in Texas, there's guns involved. And so then I thought, you know, I'd love to live in a squat, but you know, I'm 49 years of age. I don't want to be kicked out in the middle of the night or be evicted, you know, sitting out on the street with all my possessions going, oh, what do I do now? And so just sort of through the network of meeting people and getting to know people, I found a place where I'm now at, and we have permission from the council to be there. It's temporary. The building will be torn down. And I now live in a very large community with people, and we also work together. We don't have a cafe, and we don't have that, but I have this opportunity to live with people from all over the world, and we do work as a family union.
Well, I lived in about 10 squats before I moved into the last one, and all of them were like so massively different. So like some of them were like ranging from 10 people living inside, some lasted 2 weeks and only 2 people lived there, you know, they were all really eclectic and random. But the latest one I'm living in is like a social centre.
Yeah, I've had lots of friends who've been squatters at one time or another, and they, you know, they're not now because they don't need to be, because I'm an old man and so are they. But mind you, even if they, you know, who knows when you might need to. It's just an obvious thing. There are big houses with no one in them, and no one in them for years often, and there are people with nowhere to stay. I mean, the equation is obvious, unlike the equation that says, well, those people with nowhere to stay have got to sleep on the streets then.
And I came to London to do stand-up comedy, and I have a part-time job here, and I could work full-time in my background, and I was a mortgage broker previously. However, I found that a bit of the creative spirit just, it dies when you have a full-time job. If you work from 9 to 5, you're not going to go out and do comedy at night. And squatting is what enables me to pursue my dream as a stand-up comic. I have a part-time job that puts food on my table, but now I can go out and do gigs and work at night and perform and entertain. Whereas if I had a full-time job, I wouldn't have the physical energy to go out and perform. And so squatting is how I support my comedy habit. I do a joke about how I'm not by any way, shape, or form considered a success. I'm about one punchline away from sleeping on a park bench. But really, there's not a lot of truth in that, because I have found a community that has adopted me where I'm allowed to live, and that wouldn't have happened anywhere else in the world.
So I live in a much smaller squat. It's just a terraced house, and the house has been empty for a number of years, like about 7 years I think, and in that time it's been sort of broken into on several occasions. And yeah, since we've been there, the neighbours have been really friendly with us. Like, we've got on with them really well. They've been supportive, and we've started. We've opened both of the gardens up together, and we're actually sharing tools and like eating together and stuff like that.
The reason you see so many properties that are boarded up or they have the metal grates over them is because of the EU standards of what is acceptable as social housing. You need double glazing, there's certain standards. Well, these houses, the council may not have the money to put in double glazing and fix the property up to make it what is considered acceptable for social housing. And so but they're still not being utilized. So why not have people that come in that have trade skills that can volunteer their time and their energy to fix up these properties, and they get to live there until they're fixed up, and then they move on to the next one. Then you're not using taxpayers' monies to fix up a property to make it livable. There's so many different variations on how you could solve the housing crisis in the UK. 2 million people need homes. 1 million properties are empty.
Yeah, well, I guess they're trying to criminalise it now because it would appear that the Tories like the idea of the gulf between rich and poor getting bigger and bigger. Squatters unite, do not accept this typical right-wing Tory government calumny.
We do like cafe, well not a cafe, like a people's kitchen on a Wednesday where like the local community, it's mostly like the squatting community can come and cook. Or we do like screen printing workshops. It's just like any workshop we can do that we can fit in a room we do. So
there's a screen printing workshop, they have a dark room, they have a sewing workshop, they teach about electrics and plumbing by actual licensed plumbers and electricians. You have those that do the creative nights. They have poetry slams, comedy nights, music jams, and you're bringing people together to create.
So now they want to ban trespass. Have you been a victim of trespass? Please, Justice Minister Crispin, we all want justice, but are squatters the worst amongst us? Who's had a bike nicked? Who's been randomly kicked? Who's had an unfair fine? Didn't realise there was a line they're dictating our lives with building control hives so we can keep contributing while the rich are tax evading. Who got ripped off buying their house? Who can't afford to buy a house? Who got paid late? Who got laid off? Who saw their savings interest shrink? Who tried really hard to get along in this system to find out it actually stinks? And I'm just living in some rich boy's building, so I have time to write my poems. The money saved men's loans. When did your bank last decline you? When did you last feel secure? I create my own security by using up what's empty. I'm not a criminal. I'm just eating off the side. I don't want to be rich because somebody died. I eat from the Waitrose bin, so I'm fit for recycling, because who can afford food in the shops? And with all these crimes and hardships, the greatest recession in years, the Conservatives have a shedding tears over a minority of people who want to live in the capital but don't have a relative city. And now the media's got you angry, saying squatters devalue your home when it's 'cause the banks won't loan. We're sweeping up the cobwebs, we're brushing up neglect, we're loosening the noose from round our neck. 1% of the population owns 70% of the land, and the Conservatives think squatting should be banned. The church is squatting. The Queen is squatting. The rich are squatting. I'm just living in some rich boy's building.
While I'm at it, I'd like to do a song. I'm a squatter, not a criminal. I'm a squatter, what a laugh.